Hello, welcome to another video. Please like, share and subscribe for more amazing story. True God in Another Worlds, Tensura x Tbate, by Tempest_King_20. Chapter 54 Training Session. Third person POV. A sudden explosion of fire and wind magic caught Arthur off guard, causing him to jump back with a surprised yelp. He quickly regained his composure and raised his hand, conjuring the powers of wind and water to create a shimmering barrier that shielded him from the chaotic blast. As his heart raced, Arthur couldn't help but be impressed by his little sister, Eleanor, who was on fire, metaphorically speaking. She was unleashing a barrage of mana-infused arrows that flew through the air with incredible speed. It was a sight to behold, and Arthur couldn't help but felt a mix of surprise and pride. But before Arthur could even fully react, these orbs of crackling mana came surging out from the shadows behind him, intercepting each of Eleanor's incoming arrows with pinpoint accuracy. Swiveling around, Arthur's gaze fell upon his niece, a glimmer of pride sweeping across his face. Her eyes met his, and a silent understanding passed between them as they acknowledged their synchronized display of magic. Meanwhile, Seel and Sylvia were locked in an epic magical showdown, a sight to behold. The air crackled with raw energy as their powers clashed, lighting up the battlefield with a mesmerizing display of lights and sparks. Seel, with her years of experience as a mage, demonstrates her mastery and finesse, while Sylvia struggles to keep up with the intensity of their battle. With a graceful flourish of her hand, Seel effortlessly conjures a multitude of spells, sending blazing fireballs, arcing water arrows, and powerful gusts of wind towards Sylvia. She wore a confident smirk as she unleashed her magical assault, fully aware of her superior skills. Yet, Sylvia refused to back down. Her determination blazed in her eyes as she conjured a formidable shield, blocking Seel's onslaught. The fiery projectiles, watery torrents, and gusts of wind collided with the barrier, dissipating harmlessly into thin air. Summoning her resolution, Sylvia retaliated with her own formidable spells. With a deft wave of her finger, she manipulates the very fabric of gravity, imbuing the world around Seel with a heightened sense of weight and density. However, to Sylvia's surprise, the moment her spell took effect, Seel seemed to dissolve into nothingness, revealing that it was nothing more than a clever illusion. Annoyance creased Sylvia's brow as she scanned the surroundings, her eyes darting from one shadow to another in search of any trace of Seel's presence. The battlefield bore the remnants of their magical clash, a testament to the intensity of their duel, yet Seel had disappeared with an enigmatic finesse. Frustration gnawed at Sylvia's senses as she strained to anticipate Seel's next move, weighing her options carefully. Just as Sylvia poised herself to step forward, a soft voice whispered in her ear, sending shivers down her spine. "Well done, Sylvia," Seel remarked, her voice laced with amusement. "But you still have much to learn." She swiftly spun around, her senses on high alert, only to find Seel materializing behind her, a mischievous smile dancing on her lips. Sylvia barely had time to react before Seel unleashed a relentless barrage of magical projectiles. She conjured a shield for protection, but it faltered under the sheer force of Seel's attacks. The shield cracked, and Sylvia stumbled backward, struggling to maintain her defense. "You've got more room for improvement if you want to surpass me," Seel taunted, her voice devoid of malice, simply stating the truth, a truth that Sylvia had already come to accept. With a swift motion and a flick of her finger, Seel conjured a tempestuous fusion of fire and wind, a combination of scorching heat and howling gusts that surged towards Sylvia. Determination etched onto her features, Sylvia gritted her teeth, refusing to yield before the onslaught. "Wow, that fight is seriously mind-blowing," Lilia commented, her eyes wide with awe as she deflected a blow from Tessia's sword. "They're on a whole other level, it's incredible." "You're right, Lilia," Tessia agreed, her voice carrying a hint of awe as she summoned her elemental power. From the very ground beneath them, verdant vines sprouted forth, and extended around Lilia to steady her. Lilia gracefully evaded the encroaching vines, her wind blades slicing through the verdant tendrils with precision and grace. Yet, Tessia remained resolute, summoning forth even more vines to ensnare Lilia once again, attempting to limit her movements and restrict her options. Caught in the entangling vines, Lilia's mind raced, searching for a solution amidst the chaos. Drawing from her wellspring of magic, she focused her energy into a concentrated gust of wind, channeling it into a focused torrent that swept through the battlefield. The powerful gust dislodged and hurled away the creeping vines, granting Lilia a momentary respite to gather herself. Seizing the opportunity, Lilia launched a counter-offensive. She conjured a cyclone of razor-sharp wind blades that swirled around her with an ethereal grace. The blades gleamed with a menacing intensity as she directed them towards Tessia, aiming to overwhelm her defenses with their velocity and precision. The clash between the wind blades and Tessia's shield reverberated through the air. The crackling energy filled the space as the blades relentlessly attempted to pierce through the shield, while Tessia strained to maintain her defense. Driven by her determination, Lilia poured more magic into the cyclone, enhancing the power and speed of the wind blades. The shield trembled under the onslaught, revealing signs of weakening. Sensing an opportunity, Lilia swiftly altered her strategy. With a calculated motion, she redirected the cyclone, causing the wind blades to spiral around Tessia's shield, attacking from multiple angles. The blades cut through the air with precision, seeking any vulnerability in Tessia's defense. Tessia's focus sharpened as she realized the imminent threat. She concentrated her energy and skill, reinforcing her shield with additional layers of wind magic. The shield expanded and thickened, fortifying the barrier against the onslaught of wind blades. The wind blades relentlessly hammered against Tessia's shield, but she stood firm, unyielding in her resolve. Beads of sweat formed on her forehead as she poured her energy into maintaining the shield, refusing to give an inch. Meanwhile, Lilia maintained the cyclone, ensuring a continuous barrage of wind blades. She adjusted her aim, targeting weaker spots in Tessia's shield, hoping to exploit any vulnerability she could find. Returning to Arthur, he found himself being pushed back by Rimuru's relentless assault. As their clash continued, it became increasingly clear that Arthur's skill with the sword and his pride as the best swordsman in his former world were no match for Rimuru's vast experience and refined technique. Rimuru, with centuries of combat expertise and a deep understanding of swordsmanship, proved to be an overwhelmingly formidable opponent. I expected him to outperform me, but I didn't expect him to be to this degree. Arthur gritted his teeth, frustration coursing through his veins. His mind raced, desperately searching for a strategy to overcome the seemingly insurmountable obstacle in front of him. Realizing that relying solely on his swordsmanship was futile, Arthur made the decision to incorporate magic into his arsenal. But he knew that ordinary spells would be useless against Rimuru's power. Determined to turn the tide, Arthur prepared to unleash his trump card. Stepping back, he created some distance between himself and his brother, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. Drawing in a deep breath, Arthur delved deep within himself, tapping into the dormant power of the dragon's will. Phase 2, Realm Heart, he whispered under his breath, barely audible amidst the chaos of the battle. In that instant, Sylvia's will surged through his entire being, filling him with a familiar surge of power. A transformation washed over him, turning his reddish-brown hair into a dazzling shade of white. His blue eyes shimmered with an ethereal amethyst-purple glow, radiating an otherworldly aura. With his heightened mana control, Arthur conjured several ice spears infused with crackling lightning magic. The fusion of the two elements enhanced their speed and potency. Without hesitation, he unleashed the projectiles toward Rimuru, his determination unwavering. But Arthur didn't stop there. Utilizing the power of Thunderclap Impulse, he propelled himself forward, hurtling toward his brother with a desperate fervor. Rimuru, caught off guard by Arthur's sudden transformation, couldn't help but show a mixture of pride and defiance in his smile. Gripping his obsidian-hued katana tightly, he positioned himself swiftly, ready to meet Arthur's thunderous charge head-on, invoking Thunderclap Impulse in response. The air crackled with electricity as Arthur's enhanced ice spears filled the space between them, hurtling toward Rimuru with deadly precision. Rimuru's movements were swift and graceful, a testament to his seasoned warrior's finesse. With expert skill, he effortlessly evaded the projectiles, his body moving with the grace of a dancer. Each fluid motion was accompanied by the resounding clash of their swords, as Rimuru parried Arthur's strikes and created strategic openings for his own counterattacks. While Rimuru abstained from utilizing excessive power, akin to his brother's, he had a keen understanding of Arthur's limitations. Aware that Arthur's heightened state would eventually wane, Rimuru chose instead to conserve his energy, adopting a defensive stance that weathered the storm of Arthur's relentless attacks. As the battle neared its conclusion, Arthur resolved to bring it to an end swiftly. Merging lightning and wind magic, he enhanced his speed to unprecedented levels. Aware of the slim odds of victory, even with his newfound swiftness, Arthur made the bold decision to unleash his final hidden trump card. Though his mastery over this ability remained in its early stages, Arthur cast aside his reservations and fully committed to using it. With a flick of his wrist, he conjured a fresh wave of ice spears, each one pulsating with the remnants of his dwindling mana reserves. With unwavering determination, Arthur launched the spears towards his brother, extending his hand with unwavering intent. Rimuru, eyebrow slightly arched in curiosity, prepared himself to intercept the swiftly approaching projectile. But fate had other plans, as an unforeseen twist suddenly filled the air with a palpable weight, pressing down upon Rimuru like an immense force. Startled, Rimuru found himself momentarily immobilized, caught off guard by the sudden change in the atmosphere. Before he could react, Arthur materialized before him in a dazzling display of lightning sparks, an aura of energy enveloping him completely. He was poised to deliver a decisive blow. This. Rimuru's lips curled into a smile, a mixture of surprise and admiration shining in his eyes as he witnessed the spectacle before him. Arthur, wearing a smirk of his own, relished the opportunity to finally gain the upper hand against his brother. In that fleeting moment, Rimuru's lapse in vigilance became the opening Arthur needed to seize the advantage. Yet, Rimuru wasn't the only one lowering his guard. Just as Arthur savored the taste of impending victory, a sudden gust of wind swept through the battlefield, knocking him off balance. Before he could regain his footing, a barrage of arrows, radiant with pulsating mana, materialized out of thin air, hurtling toward him with astonishing velocity. These ethereal projectiles, unleashed by an unexpected third party, bore the intent to pierce Arthur's defenses and strike him down. Caught off guard by this sudden intervention, Arthur's once confident smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. Reacting on pure instinct, Arthur swiftly conjured a protective barrier with a flash of magical prowess, desperately hoping to shield himself from the imminent assault. The arrows collided with the barrier, creating a dazzling display of magical energy as the two forces clashed. As Arthur surveyed the source of the arrow onslaught, his gaze met that of the archer responsible, a figure he had momentarily forgotten amidst the heat of battle. It was none other than his own sister, her lips twisted into a smirk of satisfaction. In that moment, Arthur inwardly cursed himself for his oversight, realizing the grave error he had made. Suddenly, a presence materialized beside Arthur, catching his attention. It was Seel, her countenance calm and composed, despite the chaos unfolding around them. Their eyes met, exchanging a silent message of reassurance and determination. With a subtle nod, Seel motioned behind her, drawing Arthur's focus towards the fallen bodies of Sylvia and Tessia, Rimuru's companions, now sprawled on the ground, visibly drained and gasping for breath. "Seems like you're finished there," Rimuru remarked casually, his gaze shifting briefly towards Sylvia and Tessia. "Sorry." Apologies tinged Sylvia's weary voice as she weakly raised a trembling hand from her prone position. Tessia, too, offered Rimuru an apologetic glance, her exhaustion etched deeply into her features. Sweat trickled down their dirt-streaked faces, evidence of the grueling battle they had endured. "So, will you finally admit defeat, my dear?" Seel taunted, a smug grin playing on her lips as she looked at Rimuru with a hint of superiority in her eyes. "Why should I surrender? I am still more than capable of continuing this fight," Rimuru responded, his voice carrying a hint of indifference that masked his underlying determination. Seel arched an eyebrow, her skeptical gaze questioning Rimuru's assertion. Her words dripped with subtle skepticism as she pointedly remarked, "Oh, and do you genuinely believe that you possess the ability to overcome the combined might of the four of us?" So it's a 2-against-4 situation, isn't it? Well, who's to say I can't emerge victorious?" Rimuru countered, his voice laced with a calm confidence that belied the dire odds. "2? Are you absolutely certain?" Seel raised an eyebrow and gestured behind Rimuru. Turning his head, Rimuru's eyes widened as he discovered his younger sister, Eleanor, encircled by Sylvie and Lilia. Eleanor wore an apologetic smile, her lips trembling with nervous laughter. "Now, do you still harbor the desire to persist?" Seel provocatively inquired, her voice carrying a hint of challenge. Rimuru met her gaze for a lingering moment, the weight of the situation hanging in the air. A sigh escaped his lips, mingling with the faint whispers of wind. With a sense of acceptance, he sheathed his katana within the confines of his dimensional ring, a silent acknowledgement of his impending defeat. Very well, Seel. This victory belongs to you, Rimuru conceded, a warm smile gracing his features as he directed his gaze towards his proud girlfriend. Foo, and this marks the 35th win, Seel exclaimed, her voice filled with triumph, as she proudly stood tall. She relished in the satisfaction of another successful battle. Don't forget, the difference between us is 5 points. It was my 40th win last time, Rimuru stated with a mischievous smirk, his eyes sparkling with mischief. He took pleasure in playfully reminding Seel of their previous encounter. Seel's expression turned sour as she looked at Rimuru, her brows furrowing in annoyance. Did you have to mention that? She grumbled, her frustration evident in her voice. Rimuru chuckled lightly, enjoying the playful banter, as he made his way toward them. Arthur, after announcing the end of the spar, collapsed to the ground, his breaths coming in ragged gasps, his body drenched in sweat. With each labored breath, he struggled to regain his composure, his strength drained. This is truly draining, he exhaled wearily, his voice carrying the weight of exhaustion. His shoulders slumped, and his normally vibrant eyes dulled with fatigue. Are you still not accustomed to it, Art? Sylvia asked, her voice filled with genuine concern, as she settled down beside Arthur, her eyes filled with empathy. I'll get there eventually, Arthur replied with a strained smile, attempting to mask his weariness. But for now, I think I need a break, he confessed, his voice laced with a hint of vulnerability. Just don't push yourself too hard, okay? Sylvia reached up to Arthur's head, her touch gentle and comforting, as she brushed a stray strand of hair away from his face. Her hand lingered for a moment, offering him solace and reassurance. She then gave his head an affectionate pat, silently conveying her support. I promise I'll take it easy, Arthur replied with a weak smile, his gratitude evident in his eyes. Sylvia nodded in understanding, her own smile mirroring his, before turning her attention back to Rimuru and Seel. All right then, let's start with Ellie and Sylvie, Rimuru said, his gaze fixed on the two young girls. His voice was composed, reflecting his role as a mentor. Ellie, your timing was good, but your arrows lacked power. Sylvie, your pure mana balls are strong, but your accuracy needs improvement. And both of you need to think more creatively and find ways to fully unleash your potential. Eleanor and Sylvie nodded, their determination shining through their eyes. They were eager to absorb Rimuru's guidance and improve their skills. However, in all 3 battles, you didn't interfere much, failing to fulfill your roles as supportive, Rimuru continued. Gay, how did you expect us to interfere in a battle like this? Seel and Sylvia were casting spells left and right, and I couldn't find any opportunity to intervene. And you and Big Brother Art were moving so swiftly, it was difficult for me to follow. Eleanor protested, her frustration evident in her voice. Sylvie vigorously nodded in agreement. Rimuru shrugged, a playful smirk on his lips. Not my problem, he said casually, enjoying teasing his sister and daughter. Seel chuckled at the exchange, her laughter filling the air. Well, it's true that battles can be chaotic and fast-paced, Seel interjected, her voice calm and soothing, as she attempted to ease the tension. Her eyes held a glimmer of understanding. But that's where your creativity and adaptability come into play. Finding opportunities to support your teammates requires quick thinking and resourcefulness. Eleanor and Sylvie exchanged glances, contemplating Seel's words. They realized that they had been too focused on the immediate actions of the battle, rather than considering the broader picture. As for you, Arthur, Rimuru descended to the level of his brother, who was still lying on his back. I guess I don't need to say much, right? I know, Arthur responded, his voice steady and determined as he maintained eye contact with Rimuru. He closed his eyes briefly, collecting his thoughts before continuing. I will work on increasing my endurance to fully harness the power of real Mart. And I'll dedicate more time to practicing gravity magic, refining my control and exploring its applications. Good, Rimuru nodded approvingly, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. And also keep in mind, the magic of gravity is not only used to increase the gravity on someone. You can also manipulate gravity on yourself, becoming like a magnet or vice versa, repelling like a positive magnet with a positive charge, Rimuru explained, his words filled with a depth of knowledge. Got it, Arthur replied, his resolve firm. Sylvia, you still need to refine your control over your magic, Seel said, her voice gentle but unwavering. She turned her attention to her best friend, her eyes filled with a mixture of care and expectation. Even though you possess mastery over all four elements, there's room for growth in your creativity and finesse. Lily and Tess, Seel redirected her gaze towards the two young girls. You both have shown great progress, but there's still work to be done in blending your close combat skills with your magic. Seek harmony between the two, and strive for seamless integration. Overall, I must commend each and every one of you for the remarkable progress you've made, Rimuru declared, a genuine smile spreading across his face. The members of the group responded with nods of agreement, their faces reflecting a mixture of pride and satisfaction. Suddenly, the training hall's door swung open, catching everyone's attention. A sense of curiosity filled the room as all eyes turned towards the newcomers. Stepping into the room with a vibrant blue hair and a cheerful smile was none other than Anna. The group's faces lit up with recognition. Anna, what brings you here? Rimuru asked, genuinely curious. Hey there, Rimuru. Hey, everyone, Anna exclaimed with excitement, injecting a burst of energy into the room. She walked in alongside Lena. We've been searching for Seel and Sylvia, and Lena had a hunch they might be here, Anna explained, her voice brimming with enthusiasm as she stood beside the other girls. Well, you've arrived just in time. We just wrapped up our training session, Seel chimed in, acknowledging their presence. Ah, too bad. I was hoping to join in too, Anna lamented, her eyes shining with eagerness. Lena nodded in agreement, sharing the sentiment. Perhaps next time, Sylvia interjected, her voice gentle yet firm. Rimuru chuckled warmly, appreciating Anna's enthusiasm. Well, it's always great to have more company during our training sessions. We'll be sure to give you a heads up for the next one, he replied, his voice filled with genuine warmth. Anna's eyes sparkled with excitement at Rimuru's words. Really? Thanks, I'd absolutely love to be a part of it next time, she exclaimed, her infectious enthusiasm spreading through the room. Sylvia brushed off some dust from her clothes and changed the subject. Shall we get going, then? Arthur, who had been observing the interaction, couldn't help but be curious. Where are you all headed? He asked, genuinely interested. We're having a girls' night in Seel and Sylvia's room, Tessia replied, getting up alongside the others. Rimuru nodded in understanding, his eyes twinkling with a hint of mischief. Oh, that explains why Lloyd isn't with you all. And I assume Ellie and Sylvie are joining in as well? He prompted, seeking confirmation. Yep, that's right. We're all in, Eleanor affirmed, her eyes filled with anticipation. Absolutely, Rimuru replied, a warm smile spreading across his face. Sounds like a fun get-together. Enjoy your girls' night and make the most of your time together, he encouraged as they all made their way out of the training room. Oh, I'll drop off Ellie and Sylvie at your room later. They'll need some new clothes, Rimuru casually mentioned, motioning for Eleanor and Sylvie to follow him. Seel and Sylvia nodded appreciatively and joined Lena and Anna as they made their way towards their room. Meanwhile, Rimuru and Arthur led the group towards the student council and the DC dormitory. Lilia and Tessia decided to head to their rooms for a quick shower before continuing with their evening. Oh, wait a minute. Tessia exclaimed with a mischievous grin, playfully grabbing Arthur's arm and cutting off his tired protests. Seel asked me to grab some food. Art here will come along with me. Her eyes sparkled mischievously as she urged him to join her. Arthur, catching on to Tessia's playful intent, couldn't help but smile in response. He nodded agreeably. Sure thing, I'll happily assist you. Ellie and Sylvie, come with us. Who knows, maybe you'll find something you like, he suggested, momentarily forgetting his weariness. Eleanor's eyes lit up with excitement, her youthful enthusiasm shining through. Can we get whatever we want? She asked eagerly, her voice brimming with anticipation. Absolutely, my treat, Arthur replied, his smile widening at Eleanor's excitement. Well then, what are we waiting for? Let's hustle, Eleanor exclaimed impatiently, darting towards the bustling market. Sylvie, in her fox form, followed closely behind, mirroring Eleanor's enthusiasm. Then I'll join you too, Lilia said, but Tessia stopped her with a smile on her face. No need, Lily. We'll handle everything. You should take this chance to relax and freshen up. We'll be back before you know it, Tessia said, waving to Rimuru and Lilia before sprinting off to catch up with Eleanor and Sylvie. Rimuru pawed frustration gnawed at me as I gazed at the retreating figures of Tess and Art. Art's parting smirk and wink only fueled my irritation further. Letting out a heavy sigh, I turned my attention to Lily, who was standing beside me. "Shall we head back to our rooms?" I asked, my tone laced with weariness. Lily nodded, a slight strain in her smile. The tension between us was palpable, and her fingers fidgeted nervously as we started walking towards the dormitory. The sound of our footsteps was the only noise breaking the silence. As we walked, my mind raced, trying to unravel the motives behind this orchestrated spectacle. I couldn't imagine Art being the mastermind. It seemed like the idea had just popped into his head. Tess, on the other hand, didn't strike me as the type to be involved in such manipulative schemes. That left Seel, the mischievous troublemaker who always seemed to take pleasure in making my life difficult. She was the one who had goaded Tess into this act, I was sure of it. Leave it to Seel to seize any opportunity to mess with me, even if it meant dragging another girl into it. "The night sky looks so beautiful, don't you think?" Lily's soft voice interrupted my thoughts, her attempt to lighten the mood evident in her tone. I glanced up, captivated by the dark expanse adorned with twinkling stars. "Yeah, it really is," I replied, my voice carrying a mix of weariness and longing. The sheer beauty above momentarily distracted me from the discomfort that hung between us. Lily's smile softened, a glimmer of relaxation in her eyes. "Do you ever wonder if there are other worlds out there, beyond what we know?" She pondered, her voice filled with genuine curiosity. I let out a light chuckle, momentarily lifting the weight off my shoulders. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. Our conversation faded as swiftly as it had begun, leaving behind the uneasy silence that seemed to linger. Remembering the core that Art gave me, I decided that this was the right time to give it to Lily. "You know, I've got something for you," I said, my voice calm as I infused mana into the dimensional ring. Pulling out the water serpent core, I held it out to Lily. "Here," I offered, extending my hand and presenting the core to her. Lily's eyes widened in surprise as she took the core, carefully examining it in her hands. I could see the curiosity in her gaze, the unspoken questions lingering on her lips. "I meant to give this to you earlier, but the timing just never seemed right," I explained, feeling a bit sheepish. I scratched the back of my head, a small gesture of embarrassment. Gratefulness filled Lily's expression as she smiled appreciatively. "Thanks for always thinking of me," she said sincerely. "So, this is an A- class beast core? Maybe even A class?" I shook my head, a small smirk forming at the corner of my lips. "No, it's an S-class core, a water serpent," I revealed, enjoying the surprise that registered on her face. Her eyes widened further, a mix of amazement and awe shining within them. "S-class? That's incredible. Thanks a lot. I'll make sure to use its power wisely," she replied, her voice filled with deep admiration. However, a hint of guilt crept into her features, tarnishing the joy in her eyes. "But it does make me a little sad to think that I'm the only one benefiting from such a valuable gift while you won't take any for yourself." I waved off her concerns nonchalantly. "Nah, don't worry about me. I don't really need it," I reassured her, my tone casual. "Wow, you really said it. I mean, this is an S-class beast core, S-class. It's not just about the mana it holds, but it's worth a fortune if you sell it," Lily commented. Chuckling softly, I interjected, catching her attention. "Lily, it seems you've forgotten something," I said, pointing out her oversight. "Mana isn't the only thing one can gain from an S-class core, is it?" Lily's eyes widened in disbelief and a touch of fear, her gaze fixed on the core in her hands as if it held a mysterious secret. "You mean, this core contains a beast will?" she exclaimed, her voice a mix of shock and awe. Understanding flickered in Lily's eyes, widening as she pulled her hand back, gripping the core tightly. I get it now. Thank you, Rimuru. I promise to use it wisely and become stronger," she declared, her voice filled with determination. A warm smile spread across my face as I reached out, giving her a gentle pat on the head. "That's the Lily I know," I remarked, pride and encouragement lacing my voice. Returning the smile, Lily glanced down nervously before grabbing my shirt. Can I?" She trailed off, her grip tightening. Chuckling at her unspoken request, I nodded. "Of course, Lily." Without hesitation, Lily wrapped her arms around me in a tight embrace, and I gladly hugged her back, savoring the warmth and gratitude that radiated from her. After a brief but meaningful moment, She pulled away, wearing a content smile. Letting out a sigh of relief, Lily met my gaze with a serious expression. I promise you, I'll become a strong individual who doesn't rely solely on you. I'll work hard to improve myself and grow stronger independently, she vowed, her determination shining through. I couldn't help but chuckle, teasingly responding, you know, I don't really mind how much you depend on me. That won't do. I need to prove to myself and to you that I can stand on my own 2 feet and make you proud, Lily insisted firmly. I've always been proud of you, Lily, and I have no doubt that you'll achieve great things, I reassured her, my voice filled with pride and admiration. Blushing, Lily playfully punched my side, muttering, idiot, before averting her gaze. Her little act of affection made me burst into laughter, unable to contain my amusement. Well, anyway, the important thing now is for you to get stronger. Dealing with those troublemaking noble students might require it. Even though we, the DC, have things under control, there's no guarantee they won't pull something stupid again, I said, trying to shift the conversation before things got too embarrassing for Lily. Lily raised an eyebrow, her hazel eyes narrowing in skepticism. Really? She questioned, her voice dripping with doubt. I highly doubt those students would try anything again. After everything you, Claire, and the DC did, I don't think any of them are dumb enough to attempt something. Especially after that incident. She crossed her arms, lost in thought. Her words made me pause, the memory of that incident resurfacing in my mind. I could still vividly recall the moment I had humiliated that professor who tried to lay his hands on Lena. The whole school had witnessed the power of the DC and the authority I held. It had become the talk of the town, making it clear that I had the ability to boot anyone, even a teacher, if they crossed the line. But as Lily spoke, her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Maybe if there's someone who motivates them to do this, like someone strong or in authority, someone who boosts their ego and manipulates these students into causing trouble again. She mused, her voice trailing off. Manipulate these students into causing trouble again. Her words echoed in my mind, and suddenly, it all clicked into place. How could I have been so blind? The pieces of the puzzle started falling into place, revealing a much larger scheme at play. Lily, you're an absolute genius, I exclaimed, unable to contain my bubbling excitement. I practically lunged forward, grabbing Lily's shoulders and shaking her gently in my enthusiasm. Lily stammered, her face displaying a mix of surprise and confusion. Yes, you are, I affirmed, my voice tinged with awe and admiration. A wide grin spread across Lily's face, a mix of pride and disbelief shining in her eyes. She lifted her chin slightly, her posture taking on an air of confidence as she crossed her arms beneath her chest. Hee. I guess I might just be a genius. Hee. Lily chuckled, a newfound confidence seeping into her voice. Why didn't I think of this sooner? I was so focused on the possibility of Agrona opening portals and releasing monsters, but manipulating the noble students makes so much more sense. It plays right into their ego and entitlement. If they think their actions are justified, especially with the elves and dwarves joining the academy, they'll be more than willing to cause trouble. It's the perfect recipe for chaos and discord among the different races. Now that I have a clearer understanding of Agrona's potential plan, it's time to take action. I can't let him manipulate those students and mess with the harmony we've worked so hard to achieve. I need to gather more intel, come up with a plan, and be ready to confront him. As I pondered the situation, a sense of urgency washed over me. The safety and well-being of the academy and its students were on the line, and it was my duty to protect them. I couldn't underestimate Agrona's cunning and how far he'd go to achieve his goals. Time was of the essence. I had to act fast and make a bold move. The first strike could make all the difference. If Agrona managed to manipulate the noble students, it would not only jeopardize the academy but also sow seeds of discord among the different races. On the other hand, if we could stop him, it would be a major win. And I couldn't let this opportunity slip through my fingers.